can you do the Wildlife of Homeworld of the Wookiees? I couldn't spell the planet they're from, please. So it's basically the Wildlife of Kashyyyk. So there are a lot of creatures that you can find lurking around Kashyyyk, so this entire list is going to be canon because there's a lot of creatures, so have mercy. First up, we have a creature called Mylea. They were large feline-type creatures that had retractable ears, and they were very good at climbing and leaping through Kashyyyk's forests, and as you can see, Wookiees often use them as mounts to travel around. Then you have one called the Tak. These guys are just tree-dwelling primates. They have a type of reddish skin, they have a long tail, they have white and blue fur. These guys are harmless, and they do live all the way up in the treetops. Cal Kestis actually encounters some of these in the origin tree in his mission in Jedi Fallen Order. Speaking of which, we have the Shio bird. Now, they were enormous, very rare avians. They have elongated tails, they have a horned head, and they were known for their efficient gliding and their low-level hunting habits. They would prey on the sligs and the wishoks, and because of that, it earned a reputation as being a protector of both the Kashyyyk forest and the Wookiees. They would say that if you ever saw this bird, then it's considered a sign of peace. Then we had something called scatterbugs. We know nothing about them other than the fact that they're very small insects. Then we had something called anaconda. You guessed it by the name, it's a type of snake. That's all we got. We know it's a predator and it's known for its stealth. There was another one called tree burrower. We know literally nothing about them other than the fact that they live in the very high forest canopies. And there was another thing called a nasp. Now, they were very dangerous, large, wasp-like creatures that live in swarms. But it's not just Kashyyyk, you can find those also on Alaris Prime, and they're just known for their very painful stings. It's kind of like us, if we see a wasp, we're going in the other direction. Then there was kaibuks. They're not only just found on Shili, they can be found on Kashyyyk. Wookiees, they do hunt these for their food and clothing. That's it. Then we had another one called the Dritchar bloodworm fly. It's just a small blood-drinking insect. And there was another one called Suregi. Now, they were animals that the Wookiees kept in stables beneath the Rosha trees. That's all we have on them. We have a flame beetle. Now, these guys, they are unique to Kashyyyk. Now, they consume their local vegetation and they convert it into a flammable substance, which you can see is stored in their lower abdomen. And at will, they can ignite their chemical stores whenever they feel threatened. Cal Kestis comes through his fair share of these when going through on Jedi Fallen Order. Then there was another thing called a Trackern. Now, they were animals that were prized for their naturally spicy meat. So barbecue Trackern ribs are actually very popular amongst the Wookiees. Apparently, you would slow cook the meat to enhance the flavor. I want to try. Then we had something called an Ovor. These guys are fearsome aquatic reptiles. The Wookiees actually designed their jet catamaran after this creature, with the vessel's prow resembling the male's horn. Then there was Terentatex. They were large spine predators with tusks and notorious for hunting force-sensitive individuals. Their venomous claws and teeth made them particularly dangerous. They're not all there, you know, so you can outsmart them, but I just stay away. Then we had something else called a Katan. Now, they were a predatory creature that's more or less only found in the deep, dark shadowlands of Kashyyyk. Some Republic clone commandos actually named their armor after this. It was named the Katan class commando armor. Then you had the albino wishok. It was a very uncommon variation of the wishok species. These enormous spiders were quicker and more aggressive than their counterparts, and they would use their venomous spit to paralyze their prey before feeding. Again, Cal Kestis was ambushed by one of these things. Then you had the regular wishoks. Now, these guys were known for two things: their intelligence and their hostility. They hunted by casting webs from a distance and then ambushing their prey. Their eggs were actually a component in a dessert called a Kashyyyk cake, and they were fiercely protected by tough sacks of webbing and saliva. Female wishoks would lay thousands of these eggs annually, and their offspring at that stage are extremely aggressive and would just attack anything. Then we had the slig. These guys are just large, snail-like carnivores. They would emit toxic sludge to defend themselves and attack their prey. Once again, Cal Kestis did have a run in one of these guys. Then there was a Mikal. These guys were flying predators known for their swift aerial strikes. Wookiees would hunt down these guys for a delicacy, but their species population surged out of control during Imperial occupation. Then there was a Char ant. They coexisted with these Shishok trees as like a symbiotic relationship. In the High Republic era, during a conflict with the Drenga on the planet Mulita, the Jedi compared this partnership to the connection between the Drenga and the local anthropods. Then we had something called an Orothodur. So they were animals that were distinguished by their multi-pronged antlers, and their antlers, they could be used for making furniture. Grand Moff Loz and Tolrug use the antlers to basically make a chair. And then lastly, we have a web weaver. Yeah, not that web weaver. They were another form of massive spiders that preyed on both humans and creatures. Wookiees would also hunt them down for food, but the spiders also played a deadly role during the liberation of Kashyyyk. Han Solo and Chewbacca unleashed a swarm of these guys on a Star Destroyer, and that led to the deaths of the Rear Admiral and several stormtroopers. The Wildlife of Kashyyyk. Hope it helped.